Hi guys, I was saying my name is Taylor Zansberg and I'm the digital marketing manager at Peak.
Hey!
Yay! And Michael's here!
It worked!
Yay! Welcome!
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh no, I'm so glad. I have a lot of time, so I'm happy I can be here.
Awesome. We're very excited to have you. So for those just tuning in, we are live with Michael Callahan, who is the dance captain of Aladdin
That's
Iago.
okay.
And he was also the understudy for Aladdin Iago, and was it all the male principal roles?
No, the male ensemble. The
Male
only
ensemble.
principals were Aladdin and Iago. I understudied them.
Okay, so then all the male. So all the roles. He was a busy.
Yes, very busy, very busy.
We're excited to have you. So
Thank you.
we did get a few submitted questions, but we'll just start off with like, how are you? How are you dealing with quarantine? Are you like relaxing a lot or finding yourself more busy than normal? What's going
Um,
on?
I'm well. I'm with my family. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, so I'm actually staying in my mom's house right now with my little brother. So we are practicing our social distancing, and I'm very happy to be here. Just because Kentucky has a lot of like parks and a lot of like beautiful spaces that I can go to and kind of like get out. So that's been kind of nice. Um, but yeah, I'm good. I'm actually keeping busier than I thought I would be. I'm teaching a ton of dance classes right now, for different studios. Some starting up soon. Some I've been with before. And yeah, that's kind of been like my quarantine has been learning to teach on Zoom, and Instagram Live and all these technological ways of doing this. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, I saw one of your Instagram lives. That was awesome. And we're launching, I don't think we've announced yet, so I'm going to announce it now, but we're launching our master classes. And our first one is going to be on next Wednesday at 7 p.m. with,
Awesome.
I think it's going to be a musical theater dance workshop. So we're really excited.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm realizing I'm sitting in front of the window. It's so bright. I'm like, oh my gosh. So there. I think it's a little bit better.
Yeah,
That's awesome though.
technical issues. Do you have tips for, I guess, for people that are tuning in, like for the Zoom masterclass, like tips for people that would be like tuning in, or like people like master classes, like things that you've learned?
Well, I mean, of course, the medium of taking class online is not ideal, especially for a dance class that's so physically based. Um, but what I will say is, try to get it on as big of a screen as possible. I'm finding that people taking class on their phone are struggling more than people who have a laptop open or something like that. Um, Also, this is hilarious. I've been teaching a lot of kids, and they're amazing, and they're so invested and so into it. But like, make sure you know what's around you while you're dancing. We've had a couple like lamp wipeouts and like like kicked a chair kind of things happening. Just be aware. But yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting about the teaching style that has to happen right now is it requires so much of the student to want to take the class. Like you can't really discipline or keep someone's attention as well as a teacher in this way. So you have to really be a student who wants to show up, and you're going to get as much out of it as you put into it because really no one's there pushing you
Yeah,
hands
yeah.
on.
It's I've done some Zoom yoga classes and a Zoom dance part. It's interesting to like be by yourself. Like, I don't know, it's just a different experience.
Yeah, it's very weird. I will say it's interesting teaching. Like Instagram Live was really wild for me last week because I taught, and you're dancing to a video of yourself. Like you don't see anyone else. So there are a couple times I was like, I feel crazy, but it's working, and it's what we have to do right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a mind-boggling process.
It is. But good for you for taking yoga classes and like doing all the things. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and I'm trying. It's interesting because I usually take hot yoga, so my body's not used to like not being in the heat. So I'm like lighting candles and like incense and like I'm trying to create the like,
The space.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank
Cool.
you for tuning in. I know there's so many lives going on right now, so I really
Yeah.
appreciate you guys choosing to be with us. And if you have questions, comment them, and we will do our best to answer them. I know there's sometimes a lag, but welcome to everyone that's tuning in.
Cool.
Um,
Cool.
I will ask you the questions that were submitted because I just want to make sure that I get those asked.
Yeah, go
So,
for it.
I'm Possible 17 wrote, "How can I get on Broadway? And what's your favorite memory of Aladdin?" So two different
Ooh,
questions.
two questions. Okay. The first one, what a hard question because there's no exact route to that being a part of your life, right? Like, I know some people who went to college for musical theater and left, like myself, went to college for musical theater at Elon. Yo, Durham, what's up? Hey, Elon. Um, and that was like my education towards getting to that level. Um, but there are some people who leave high school, train in New York City, at Broadway Dance Center or Steps or these other amazing studios and do it that way. You know, no, there's no mathematical equation that ends you up there. And a lot of times it's a lot of preparation. It's a lot of luck. To be honest, it just is because there are so many talented people who haven't been on Broadway yet. Um, but I also challenge everyone to not assume that to be a performer it's Broadway or bust. Like you can be a performer and make a life in the arts, and Broadway not be a part of it. Like it's not the end goal. I think a lot of amazing artists get very frustrated because that box is not checked and end up not giving the world what they're capable of in other avenues because of that. The second one, what's my favorite memory of Aladdin? So I was the dance captain. So I was in charge of maintaining the dance integrity of the show. Um, a big thing that like a lot of friends of mine get confused with it is I didn't choreograph the show. Casey Nicola directed and choreographed it. My job was to just make sure that everybody kept doing exactly what he choreographed. So basically, as new people came into the show, a new Aladdin, new Jasmine's, new people in the ensemble, it was my job to teach them basically everything in the show, everything that had music underneath it. Uh, and I will say that in hindsight was the most rewarding part of being part of Aladdin. That like it got to a point where everybody on that stage had learned it from me in some way, shape, or form, and um, that was magical for me. It was kind of like blew my mind a little bit, and we had some amazing performers. And as I'm teaching them, I'm learning more about it from them, and yeah, it was amazing. That was the coolest part. I loved that.
Well, to respond to you, that was great advice, and really, that's interesting about like not being on Broadway. Like I grew up going to Paper Mill Playhouse, which is a regional theater in New Jersey, so, and like that was really impactful to me. So that's a good point for people to think about, like beyond Broadway.
Yeah,
That is really neat, like to see your work come to fruition on stage. Like
yeah,
to know that you didn't choreograph it, but still you helped shape and mold the people that were on stage. That's
yeah. It was cool. I ended up taking great pride in it, and I was honored to be like the person who kind of got to teach people's dream come true to them. Like that was so wild. Like,
yeah, yeah, no, that's really neat. And then another question was chemical. I might be saying it wrong. Sorry. 918 said, this is kind of redundant, but I thought it might be interesting to hear if you have other tidbits. But like, what's your best advice for a college student pursuing BFA in musical theater with Broadway dreams?
ah,
So it kind of you answered it, but if there's anything else you would add.
yeah. I think first of all, like going to college for musical theater or for anything, I think is so important. Like just being a mature, a more educated person always can help you. It always can. Um, I think, I mean, the biggest advice I have for specifically like college kids moving into New York is to very much take seriously that rejection is a part of an artist's life. It is a part of it. Like you have to be able to handle it in a healthy way consistently. And I think um, my sister is a nurse and she is working her butt off right now, and she is one of the heroes of the world at the always, but especially right now. And my brother is in college as a going to physical therapy. So we sometimes talk about like in these three different worlds that we're in, what it's like applying for jobs. And like when my sister moves from one nursing job to another, she applies at 3 or 4 places. Gets into one, gets rejected from three or some version of that, and then makes a choice. I go to 4 auditions sometimes in a day. and get told no from all of them. And just the rate of being told no is so consistent, and that's something that we always talk about. It's very strange about an artist's life, is how much you have to deal with that. While other professions, luckily or unluckily in some ways, don't have to deal with that. They go long periods of time, or there's less certain options that are open to them. But it's very interesting. You have to kind of like be ready for the mental game of not taking it so personally all the time.
No, I love that advice because I feel that rejection is also, at least it's a big part of my story. Like it took
Yeah.
me, and people, I guess I just had a high schooler reach out to me saying like she wants to do my job when she grows up, and I should share that advice because that's definitely a big part of it. It's like getting told no a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild. And it totally gets to you sometimes. Even the people who have the most experience with it, sometimes you get a no and you're like, really? Really? But
Yeah.
that's part of it.
Yeah. And like I with your job, it's interesting because you never know. Like they could be looking for someone with blonde hair, and I'm like, then it's
Yeah.
like totally not you. It's like,
Right.
but
But the
yeah.
majority of the time, you're not told what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's what starts to really play with people's minds is you start playing the guessing game of, well, it has to be because of this or this or this. And the reality is you don't know. And
Yeah.
you kind of have to like, and keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
And then we had one other question, which was, how was it playing Aladdin with such a funny genie and still keeping a straight face?
so I got to play Aladdin with two different genies, Michael James Scott and Corey Blasi, both unbelievable. But they were both very different. Like I, I was so fascinated by what the interaction was like on stage as an Aladdin with different genies. And yes, they're always funny, but you know, so much of where Aladdin is coming from in those scenes isn't reacting to the genie. It's trying to figure out, like, especially Friend Like Me, just trying to figure out what's going on. Like, so I tried to like really think about where Aladdin was at, not where Michael was at, laughing at my friend, like doing their thing on stage. Um, but yeah, I mean, they were amazing. And to be honest, there were times it was appropriate for Aladdin to laugh at what this character is doing. So like I guess I kind of like went in and out. Like like when it was appropriate as Aladdin, totally was laughing. When it was not appropriate as Michael, staying in character.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that must be challenging. They are very funny. I saw Michael James Scott came for our season announcement event, and
Yeah.
he performed, and he's like a larger than life personality. And then Corey was the when Aladdin was here for 4
Yep.
weeks. They're both very hysterical.
And I think the amazing thing about Aladdin is, you know, for most of these characters, especially the genie, whoever you see is makes it a different show. I mean, like in the best of ways. Like the genies really have some room to put their personality and their own spin on things, and it really makes the show fresh for audiences who have seen it maybe once and want to see it again.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true because they do shape it with their personalities.
Yeah.
I guess another question is, I know quarantine, is hard, but like, what's been, if you have like your favorite part of it, or like, have you got to cook more, or spend time with your family more? Like, what's been the best thing that's come out of this time so far for you?
Definitely spending time with my family. I haven't lived with my family for this long since high school. Because I was like doing summer jobs or summer camps and all kinds of stuff in college, and then left immediately and moved to New York. So it's been bizarre, both in good and bad ways, to live with your parents again. I do feel very lucky to be here, though. Definitely cooking, lots of cooking. I think the thing that's keeping me the most sane is like trying to create some kind of structure to my days. Sometimes that structure is ridiculous. It's like you get to watch TV for 90 minutes right now, and then you have to work out, and then like, but like for my brain, like having, even if it's a ridiculous plan, like a plan helps me kind of stay sane and feel productive in some way. So that's kind of been my like go-to. And I have a couple weekly dates, if you will, like watching movie with a couple friends. I have a game night with a lot of my Aladdin friends every Wednesday night. So like that's our game night where, you know, who knows what we even play, but like it's just a good time to catch up and connect as much as you can right now.
That's awesome. Have you played code games?
We've been playing that nonstop.
That's my favorite. I love that. I played it in real life, and then we started playing it virtually, my friends and I, and I'm like, this is so fun.
It is a blast, and it's a good game to play. It's easy to play like on the, you know,
Online.
online situation. We
Yeah.
play a lot of Quiplash, like Jackbox TV games.
Oh, okay. I haven't done that yet.
They're hilarious. They're really quirky and weird, but they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, I need to check that out. What are you reading, watching, and listening to?
Okay, so hold on. Eating, watching.
Reading, well, you could say eating, but
Oh, I was like, I'm eating everything.
reading and listening to.
Reading, watching, listening to. Okay, so I'm gonna go backwards. Right now, I'm listening weekly to Brene Brown's podcast. I love her. I read everything I possibly can that she writes, and she's incredible. So I'm really loving that podcast at the moment. Let's see. Reading. What am I reading? Right now, oh, you know what I just got? And this is funny because I remember you asking me this question when we did the podcast for you last year. I just picked up Ali Wong's new book, Dear Girls, which I cannot wait to read because she is my idol. She's my everything. I think she's the funniest person alive. Reading, oh, and watching. Okay, so I'm very heavy into Westworld, which thankfully just had a new season. I binged Killing Eve during this little break, this quarantine. I'm definitely up to date on RuPaul's Drag Race because it's church. And let's see, there was one more I was thinking of. Oh, I'm getting my way through Ozark right now.
Oh.
Yeah. That's
I haven't watched the shows you've mentioned, so I'm gonna have to check those out.
I'm definitely like, I mean, there's a lot of parts of my personality, but I'm definitely like a sci-fi action geek. So like Westworld and like Ozark, like the action, like I love it.
Killing Eve, my friend just recommended to me, so I may have to check that out.
It's awesome. I had a lot of friends recommend it, and I just hadn't gotten to it yet. And I started it, and I was like, I binged it. Oh, it's over. Like,
yeah,
I've caught up.
That right now.
Yeah.
Then another question: what does self-care mean to you during this time?
Ooh. Wow. That's a great question. That's a great question. I think it varies depending on the day and the situation. You know, it's like this is like a brand new situation for everybody, right? So I think a lot of what I'm trying to do, and not always successful, is, you know, I'm trying to not compare myself to what anybody else is doing during this time, which is really hard. I'm just kind of doing my thing at my pace, and that's kind of keeping me healthy. I'm finding it really important to not overly talk about what I'm struggling with, but to have people that I am talking to consistently about, like, yo, how was your day? What is on your mind? Let's talk this out. I think that's important. I think when you're isolated, you forget that there are certain people you can reach out to kind of get you in a good headspace. And sometimes it's not even talking about what's going wrong. Sometimes it's just talking. Like, you know, I'm a dancer, so I so much believe in human interaction and contact and connection, and that's so hard right now. So you got to get it where you can to keep yourself sane. And the other thing too, and this is something I've been talking to a lot of my friends about, is like, you know, there are good and bad days always, but there are sometimes the bad days I'm finding during quarantine are really bad.
Yeah.
Where, like, you go down that news spiral hole of like, when will we ever come out? Will I die alone? Like all those things. And I think I'm finding it's important to let myself feel them, to like move through it. And not try to push them to the side, but actually be like, oh, today was a bad day. Why was it a bad day? How do I make tomorrow better? One of which has been like, I only let myself watch so much news. I watch like, I get my 15 to 20 minutes in the morning and my 15 to 20 minutes at night. And that kind of helps me out. Because if I watch too long, I'm like, what's happening? But
Yeah,
yeah.
that's good advice. I've been hearing that from a lot of different thought leaders about like the managing how much news you get media you're getting because it can be really detrimental to your mental health.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So doing my best. I mean, like, I'll be the first to say I've had some days where you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And I've had some days where I'm like, okay, cool, I got this. Like, this is great. So it's just part of it.
Yeah. No, all great advice. I like the comparing yourself thing is a great piece of advice too because something that I'm noticing is like that's cool and that's all the memes is like everyone thinks like I'm gonna do everything. I'm gonna clean out under my bathroom sink and I'm gonna go through all my drawers, but it's like there's also stress and you're like you don't even realize the anxiety you have and like how exhausting it is.
Yeah. And there's like, there's an underlying anxiety of the situation we're in, whether you're thinking about it or not. Like, there's just like a general anxiety level that like lives
Yeah.
subconsciously. So
Yeah.
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 But yeah.
Um, what are you most looking forward to do in this post-pandemic world? Like, is it have a friend or go back to work or
Um,
like?
Definitely hug a friend. That's probably number one. Um, I, the Aladdin tour unfortunately closed a month ago um, because of the pandemic. We were already scheduled to close actually this coming Sunday in 3 days. So we lucked out only in that we closed a month early, which it still was horrible for us. But I think, a better situation than I know a lot of other tours have had to go through. But I was already scheduled to join the Broadway cast of Aladdin after the tour closed. So when Broadway comes back, I'll be working in New York with them.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's coming up whenever it comes up. So I'm just kind of chilling, waiting for that to happen. And
So excited.
um, I'm also the dance supervisor for Aladdin Mexico City. We're bringing the show to Mexico City, their own Mexican company in Spanish. We're super psyched for it. And that's actually scheduled to go into rehearsal in the fall. In February, I was just in Mexico doing the auditions with the whole creative team, and the cast is awesome, and we're so psyched. So, as you know, right now, all of that's still on. And we're hoping it stays that way in the fall to put up in rehearsals and open it, I believe, at the end of November, beginning of December. So,
That's
yeah.
really. I didn't realize the Broadway thing, but I saw the Mexico City. That's awesome. Really exciting.
Yeah,
That's,
I'm in the Aladdin world, man. I'm loving it.
yeah. So what exactly are you doing on Broadway? Like, are you
I
dancing?
will be a swing and understudying Iago on Broadway.
That's so cool. And
Yeah.
Michael James Scott isn't still on Broadway, is he? With Aladdin?
Uh, I don't want to tell you wrong because I don't know what's happening with all the pandemic stuff where people are.
I
Um,
feel like he isn't, but I'm not sure.
yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but he pops in a lot because he's so good.
Yeah, he is really good.
I mean, I hope he's there when I'm there. That would be
Yeah,
awesome.
that's really cool. Awesome. Looking at my questions. So you went to school in North Carolina
I did.
4 years. So
Hmm.
what do you miss, if you miss anything, what do you miss most about North Carolina?
Cookout.
Good answer.
Cookout. No, it's I went to school at Elon, and I loved every second of it, and I get even more nostalgic of it as I get farther away. But I was in Durham last year with you and with Aladdin, and I think, I mean, North Carolina is a beautiful state. I don't think people realize that, like the nature of North Carolina, it, and we were there in the fall. It was beautiful. Like I honestly couldn't believe it. And I miss, yeah, I mean, I think I just miss the nature of North Carolina. You're stuck in New York City, and which is a wonderful city in its own right, but there's nothing like that greenery and just that vibe of these smaller towns and this, really, really funky way of living. Not to
Yeah.
mention Elon's campus itself is gorgeous, and
I've actually never been there. I have to wander out there sometime.
you should. It's even changed so much since I was there, and I was nerding out pretty hard when I went to visit.
Sweet. I watched another Instagram live, and someone asked this question. I just thought it was a funny question, so I'm going to ask you. But I'm also going to encourage everyone that's tuning in. If you have questions, happy
Yeah.
to coming up with them on my own. But if you have questions, now's your chance. So the question was, if you had like a famous chef in front of you, and they could prepare anything for you, what would your plate look like?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I
That's hard. Okay.
I thought it was, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Plate, like not just like a specific thing, like a plate.
Yeah, I mean, you interpret it as you want.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, all right. I love Thai food is my favorite food.
Okay.
So I'd probably go for something in the Thai, like curry land.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I'm a pretty adventurous eater, so I mean, I like to try things I've never heard of.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, I would probably ask for a Thai dish that I've never tried before. Just like go.
that would probably be really interesting because I also wonder how authentic the food is here, so it might be something.
Right. Yeah,
Really,
that's the best answer I have.
no,
Honestly, if a chef in front of me, I will eat it. It's not.
that was great. I guess circling back to rejection, was there ever a time where you almost threw in the towel or you were just like, I can't deal with this anymore? And like, how did you come out of it if you'd have experienced that?
um, yeah, I mean, that's such an interesting. So, whew, okay. Um, the first year in New York City was the hardest for me. Um, and not even necessarily as an actor, just as a person living in New York City, it was very overwhelming for me. Uh, so I it's so funny. I ended up like as I was auditioning and struggling and figuring it all out, I ended up getting a lot of like certifications um, to kind of prepare myself to have a very steady side job. Uh, I got my bartending certification. I got my it was my personal training. I got a personal training certification.
Wow.
And it was so funny because once I had something that I was focusing on daily that wasn't theater related, all of a sudden, all of my theater stuff started to get better. It was very bizarre. Like, just the fact that the second I didn't make my entire life about auditioning and getting a job, I think I took a lot of pressure off of myself a bit. And I was like, I got to focus on this. I need to make money. I need to do this. And then, no joke, I got that certification. And all of a sudden, I started booking things nonstop. So I think as I reflected on it, like years, like as I've gotten older, I think a lot of what I found success in when I was in my worst time was, or the way I guess I turned it around is I let myself learn and think about other things and still continue it. And it balanced out. I think I was unbalanced. I think I went into New York being like, if I audition every day, if I don't think about anything else, if I, blood, sweat, and tears, nonstop, go, 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 eventually it'll hit. And I found it actually hit when I was like, no, 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 like, I need to take care of myself. I need to figure out my life and do that. And that kind of like unlocked it for me. Also luck, to be honest, just luck. But yeah, I think that's how I got through it is I let myself have permission to not let it control me, but to have control over my own life, I guess.
Yeah, that's really insightful, and that it does make sense. I think you probably took some of the pressure off of yourself, knowing that like you maybe didn't go in so desperate. I don't know if you not to say you were desperate, but like when you have
No.
more things, like you're less like I need this job. We're gonna be able to survive. It's like I'm okay, and like this would be nice to have.
Yeah. Um, and now that I'm still at the very beginning of being on the other side of that audition table. It's interesting because you see it happen. You see someone come in who wants it so bad that they actually forget what they're doing. And the only energy you're getting from their audition is, I want it so bad. it's fascinating.
Yeah. No, that is interesting. And it is interesting to be on the other side because I've interviewed some of our interns, and it is interesting to see like the energy that people bring into the room.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah. Cool. Um, so you've been on national tours, and you were on Broadway. Was it with what was it? Cinderella?
Cinderella, yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I had it right. Could you talk about like some of I know there's like some obvious differences, like national tours, you're like performing different theaters every week, but like some of the differences and like what that was like to transition from you started on Broadway and then you went to a national tour, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So I started that first year in the city after college. I was, I did a couple like regional jobs, mostly working at a gym in the city. And then exactly a year after I graduated, I booked Cinderella in New York. Um, so I jumped into that, and that was a whirlwind, amazing adventure. And some of my best friends came out of that experience, and they continue to be awesome. And um, I think, it's really wild because I think one thing people don't realize about Broadway specifically, the thing that Broadway has that not a lot of other experiences have, is that after you finish the show, like at 10:30, you guys all go home to your different places, whether to be your family, to your roommates, to your, studio apartment. Like that dynamic is very different from a tour where you're in a city where you don't know anyone except for the people in your cast. So you finish the show, and then you're like, y'all want to get something to eat? like, so there's a different. I wouldn't say more or less family dynamic, but there's definitely a different kind of bond that you create with a group of people who you are always with. Like it's your only social source most of the time. Versus New York, where some people are commuting in from Connecticut and Jersey, and it's just a different it's a different atmosphere, and not better or worse. I think ultimately we all want that atmosphere where you do your job, you do your job, and then you go home. It's just very different from I think what we experience a lot as actors. Even at a regional job, like people working at NCT, right? They come from New York. They're in Raleigh. NCT's in Raleigh, right? I'm not crazy.
I think so, yeah, I think you're
Yeah.
right.
They're there for 2 months to put up the show, do it as a group. You're kind of the only people you know in the area, and then you go back. So like you have this like little unit that happens, and that doesn't happen as much on the Broadway experience, I think.
That's an interesting point. Like, yeah, and I can see that, and I've seen that like even at the cast party, seeing the bond that people have.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's neat. So you mentioned that you're doing a lot of dance classes now. Are there any other projects that you're working on in quarantine?
I'm choreographing as much as I can. I'm actually starting up in May. I'm teaching for a studio in New York City called Full Voice. They're starting a subscription-based monthly, like basically unlimited classes monthly in a bunch of different areas. So I'm kind of like gearing up for that. We're treating it truly as like a syllabus-based program. So like it's really like a school. So every week is themed. So I'm creating syllabi right now and figuring out how I want to structure all of my classes. And I'm really excited. So like I'm the dance teacher for Full Voice Online. You can check us out at fullvoice.com. But we also are teaching like guitar lessons, piano lessons, voice lessons. Like, I mean, it is across the board, everything you could want. So that's pretty cool. That's been like a big project I've been working on. And then choreographing my own stuff. Like I'm doing a couple Instagram lives. I've been teaching at a studio and just trying to get my own creative juices going so that I feel not as idle as not idle, just trying to keep going.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, what's been some of the greatest advice you've received so far in your career or in life?
I think another person's success is not your failure is a big one for me. um I mean, just because it's very easy to get competitive in this field because you literally see the people who get the job that you didn't. But you know, for them, it's not a, you know, it's not a failure of your own. It's a success for them. So I think that's really important. Now what's another one? There's another quote that I always come back to. It's this is one of those about comparing yourself things. Don't compare your behind the scenes to another person's highlight reel. That's a big one for me. And I think that's a big one, especially with social media, man. You know, always, like, people are showing their best. They're not showing the struggles that get them there. And you have to remember that that's just not how the world works. Like,
yeah,
obstacles are a thing and you get through them.
yeah. That's something I've been enjoying about quarantine a little bit is like the walls are coming down a little bit more on social media. Not all the way, but like you see more like mishaps and like people are like, this is real, like my kids are going crazy or like whatever it is, they're like showing you some of the
Right.
behind the scenes. I
Yeah.
think is I've found that even though we're all physically distant, like isolating in some ways we're like more connected because of all the social media and the Zoom and the Facebook.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny because I feel I myself am even like, you know, social media drives me insane half the time. But this is one of the first times I've been like, wow, I'm so thankful we have it. What would we do if this happened, you know, even 30 years ago? Like, how would we have stayed connected? How would we have done school? Like, I mean, how would people have gone to school? It's crazy.
Yeah. No, my mom and I were talking about today, like, it's going to be interesting in the future, like, telling people about this. Like, it's going to be such an unbelievable, like, there was this time where we all worked from home and, like, no one could go outside. And, like, it's just, it's
Yeah.
my,
Yeah, it's wild. I'm curious to see post quarantine what things really do change about the world. You know, like, I have a feeling everyone will own a mask for the rest of our lives now. You'll have one in the house.
did you say a mask?
Yeah, a mask. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and before that was just like not a part of our culture.
Yeah,
But it is now.
yeah. Well, and even hand sanitizer. Like, I am not a hand sanitizer person, but I'm like, I might start
Yeah.
having hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, who have been some of your biggest mentors or influences?
Whew. My go-to mentor, her name is Gail Benedict. I went to performing arts school here in Louisville, the youth performing arts school, and she was my musical theater dance professor. Um, and she kind of took me under her wing, and we just connected, and I understood what she was teaching, and she is like, I joke that I unintentionally mirrored her career, or I'm starting to. She was she worked for Bob Fosse. She was his dance captain for Dancin'. She set Dancin'. She was an unbelievable Broadway dancer. Um, and then she moved to Kentucky to teach when she was done, and I was very lucky to have her. And I actually just talked to her the other day, and she's like taking cello lessons, and she's like owning quarantine. She's like,
Yeah, a lot of people are doing that. Last week we talked to Jay Harrison G, and he's
yeah,
taking a piano right now.
yep, yeah. That's something. That's my next thing. Is like, I think I'm going to take Spanish. I think I need to learn it, truly learn that language.
I was gonna ask you because if you're working in Mexico City, that'll definitely help.
Yes, I need to.
Yeah. Um, the question that we always get when we do like Facebook Lives, and you kind of said it, but like, what do you have any pointers for like dancers or actors, just like general?
Pointers.
Yeah, like tips. They always ask like for tips and stuff.
Um, I mean, I can. Yeah, I mean, of course, yes.
I know.
I'm just trying to figure out like which ones. So dance teacher, right? That's kind of like what I'm doing right now. So my biggest advice to dancers. Uh, oh wow, it's so hard. So I have so many pieces of dance advice. Uh, I'm struggling a lot right now with helping young dancers, especially via Zoom. Um, engage their plie. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's like basically bending your legs. I think it's very imperative in dance, and the best dancers have mastered the art of the plie. That's like a big dance thing I'm working on right now. I don't know. I mean, that's like very specific. So I'm trying to think. Um,
That's a good.
yeah, I'm trying to think what else. I mean, ask me something specific you'd want to tip on, and
Okay,
I
yeah.
can go.
You guys have specific questions, ask them below.
Haha, bending your legs. How far? Um, just reading the comments. Well, stretching is always good. Um, yeah, I don't know. Tips is such a hard one because like I could just like start talking and not stop. Um, I do think a lot of performing and a lot of being an artist is more mental than I think it is anything else. I think there are so many talented people in the world, and I think that a lot of times it's our own selves that stop us from
A lot of physical activities, people don't realize how much mental, like I run and there's a lot of mental
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big thing I've been doing too during quarantine. I've been running a lot.
Nice. Yeah, you have to, it's very important to the house. Nice. I guess circling back to Aladdin, what was one of your favorite songs to perform?
Songs. Okay, so in Act Two, if you've seen it, there's this number that's been added into the musical called High Adventure. It's a number where basically there's like 17 guys fighting with swords um, at the same time, and it's comedic and it's fun, and it was my favorite one actually. Um, and that's my favorite number in Aladdin the musical. The cool thing about it too is it was originally written for the animated feature in the 90s, but it got cut for time. So yeah, it was. That's my favorite one. It's so much fun.
Awesome. We got our first question. What
Hey,
do you enjoy the most about being in the ensemble of a show?
ooh, I love understanding how the cogs in the machine work for a show. I love being in the ensemble because so much of your job is helping create an environment, create where the focus should be in a scene. I think sometimes, whenever you're a principal, you're focusing so hard on this one Herculean task that you're having to do most of the time, that you're not able to see exactly how it's working around you. And that's my favorite part of being the ensemble is be able to like identify like that person is over there because it helps this happens so this happens. And man, that's ultimately why I also love being a dance captain, is because I like understanding literally and artistically why so many choices are made for a show. Yeah.
That's a great answer. And then another question I had for you is, have you learned anything new about yourself during this time?
Oh yeah, of course. Ooh, what have I learned? Um, I've definitely learned that I I need alone time in order to like recharge. And believe it or not, I'm actually having more trouble getting alone time in quarantine because everyone's home and everyone's always around and we're just kind of like always communing. I'm having to force myself to find alone time in a lot of ways. And when I don't get it, I'm like a grumpy individual. So a lot of it's like figuring that out for myself is like how to give myself. I guess that's back to the self care question. It's like how to give myself um, space to like regain my own energy.
That's interesting because that's the opposite for me, but I also live alone. Uh, I learned that like I'm a social butterfly and like I really miss people and connecting. And so like I've been setting up Zoom calls with like anyone and everyone. It's just, please connect with me.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think we're gonna wrap up there. So if anyone has any questions, now is the time to ask them. I'm looking at my questions just to see if I got everything. But this was great. Thank you so much for your time.
No, I'm more than happy to. I'm so glad. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah. Um, One question that was fun to ask Jay, I'll ask you too. What's one thing you can't live without?
Coffee.
Oh, that was an easy one.
Hands down, coffee.
And for those that don't know, we should promote your Instagram. What is it? Coffee and Comics?
Caffeinated comics. Yeah.
The comics.
Yeah. It's my comic book and coffee nerd Instagram, and I love it.
I'm not even a huge comic book person, but it's a great account, so you guys should definitely follow.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely my like other passion for sure.
And hi, Gail. Gail is one of the local DJs here. She said,
Oh, sweet.
"Oh,
Oh, we got one.
how would you suggest learning?" That's actually my mom. Hi, mom.
Hey. Oh, cool, cool. Okay. How would I suggest learning how to dance? Well, Mom, you are on Instagram right now, so you're already nailing the game because there are so many free dance classes available and yoga classes available, and I think especially right now in quarantine, that's a great way to start. Is just start. You know, you can take class from the anonymity of your home, so you don't have to worry about how people are perceiving you in that sense. Actually, one of my biggest tips is a lot of times at like salsa clubs or like dance style before they open it up. Um, so I remember going in college, and right after college, I would go and like learn the basic salsa, and it would be whoever shows up, and you do that for an hour. You learn the basic salsa, and then the club opens up, or the bar or whatever, and everyone comes in and is salsa dancing, and you know enough to be able to kind of follow along. I think that's a fun way to do it, and it's social, and you're getting to meet new people.
That's very true. I've done that actually. There's
Yeah,
um, meetups that have the hour before,
yeah.
and some Bollywood dancing. Great
Oh,
question.
cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So thank you for
Yeah,
that.
fun.
Yeah, I guess that's it. I don't really have anything else.
Sweet.
I
No,
really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
I'm more than happy to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and stay safe, everyone. You please stay safe, and thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night, and
Thanks.
we'll see you on Broadway again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Whenever it comes.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in.